There's that. Okay, Martin, this is a good question. What is the expected time frame, total cost, and likelihood of success for obtaining Kenyan citizenship through the Class G investor permit, assuming full compliance over 7 years?
Let's say that. Just say that again. What is expected? What?
What's the time frame, total cost, and likelihood of success for Class G investor permit?
Let me answer that in reverse. So, in terms of likelihood, as long as you've been here consistently, well, you don't have to be here physically, but as long as you've had residence in Kenya consistently for a period of 7 years and above, and this period must not be broken. So there must not be a gap of, say, 2 years and then there was 1 year that you're missing, and then, it must be 7 years continually. Then you definitely.
Wait, what does that mean?
Yes. In one instance, you could be here for 4 years, go back to the US. So you have a work permit for 2 years, it expires, you renew it for another 2 years, it expires, and then you go back to the US for 1 year.
Oh, you need to maintain it for 7.
Yes. So it must be continuous. Okay.
Okay.
You cannot break 4, then go to the US for 2 years, and then come back and say, no, let me continue. So it must be continuous for a period of 7 years.
Can you be back and forth? I'm sorry to keep interrupting.
Yeah. No. Yeah, it's important, and I think that's an important point because residency doesn't mean presence in Kenya. Okay. So Ryan, for example, you could get a work permit in Kenya, but you could decide, you just want to spend your winters here in Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
So there is no requirement for you to be here full time, So you can literally have a work permit. As long as you have the work permit, you could literally go back to the US and just in 2 years spend 3 months in Kenya. So the law will look at, did you have residency? It will not look at whether you are in Kenya, to look at the status.
So your passport stamps don't matter. It's the permit itself.
Yes, it's a permit, yeah. Because usually, and now we're actually doing a few of those applications. Usually when we make the application, the supporting document is not your passport. In fact, maybe your passport will have expired in that intervening period, right?
Yeah.
So the supporting documents that you would use are your subsequent permits over the years. Yes. So as long as you've met that criteria, you've been here for at least 7 years without breaking it, then you automatically qualify for either citizenship or permanent residence. Let me give a difference or a distinction between the two. Permanent residence and citizenship almost give you the same rights. The only difference is that as a citizen, you have 2 advantages that a permanent resident doesn't have. First, I don't know if this is an advantage, but as a citizen, you're allowed to vote. Okay.
Okay.
So then, if you want to vote me as your president, please. Yeah, you become the civic duty, all right? So that is the first advantage of having citizenship. Second, also, which I think is important, and I'm sure it will come up somewhere in the course of the conversation.
Yes.
Then you also have a right to own land freehold. And I know that is a big question, Ryan. So I can see it in your face. But
I'm surprised they haven't come in yet.
I'm sure it will come. So those are the 2 advantages of citizenship. Permanent residency allows you to be in Kenya for the rest of your life. So you don't have to keep on applying for residency every other time. It is called permanent residency because the residencies that you get, the 2 years residency, are temporary residencies. Okay? So it is permanent as opposed to the temporary residence. So if you get a Class G permit for 2 years, that's a temporary residence. Once you have it for 7 years at least, then it is you qualify for permanent residency. You don't have a right or privilege to vote, and also you do not have the right or privilege to own land in freehold. But in terms of prices, citizenship, now of course the law keeps on changing. Presently, the government issuance fees for citizenship is 1 million Kenyan shillings. That is about, is that $7,000?
Yeah, about 7,000. Yeah, 770.
Thereabout, yeah. The permanent residency fees at the moment is 750,000 Kenyan shillings. Is that about $5,000 or thereabout? Yeah. So some almost $2,000 difference, but this is just issuance fees. different from legal fees and facilitation fees. So, but once you meet this qualification, guaranteed you will get that. You'll get that. You'll get the citizenship. And I think I've mentioned the aspect of cost. Okay. Now, coming to the timelines and processes.
Real quick with the cost, because this question comes up. Do you
Yes.
need that money liquid, or for someone like me, I've purchased property that exceeds the amount that you need?
Yes.
Does that count?
Good. Actually, I will answer your question, Ryan, with the question on the screen now. So you see, if you make an investment in Kenya, it doesn't per se add to the case of getting citizenship or permanent residency. Okay, because these are two different residencies. If you're making an investment in Kenya, then you qualify for what is known as Class G or investor's permit. Okay, now investor's permit is one among maybe 10 different permits that you can get. If, for example, Ryan, you're a rich man, you want to retire, would apply for you a Class K permit, which is for retirees, right? If you want to be employed, if you want to be my employee, Ryan, I would apply for you a Class D permit, which is an employment permit. So there are different classes. Okay. But then there's Class C. So there are different kinds of permits. The permit.
Do they do different things?
Yes, yes. So that, for example, if you have a Class K permit, which is for retirees, you're not allowed to run a business. Okay. If you have a Class G permit, you are allowed to run a business, but you're not allowed to hold employment. If you have a Class D, you're allowed to hold employment, but not to run a business. So you see, so there are different entitlements. So this is different.
They add to your citizenship the 7 years?
Exactly, yes. So for the 7 years, it doesn't matter which permit you had.
Okay.
If you had a digital nomads permit, if you had a Class G permit, if you had a Class D, even if you kept on changing along the way. Say, for example, you started with Class K and then you're like, no, let me invest, then transform to Class G, and then decided to be employed Class D. As long as there was consistent residency for a period of at least 7 years, then you qualify. So think of these residencies as building blocks to getting the permanent residence or the citizenship. Okay. So for example, Ryan, you could be here in a Class G permit. After 7 years, you qualify for citizenship. Another person could be here under Class K, which is a retiree's permit. After 7 years, they would also qualify for citizenship. So they're different. Did you want to talk, because Abdi wants to mention something, but before I let him, you wanted me to talk about the cost as well?
Time frame, cost, likelihood of success. Yeah.
Likelihood answered, cost answered. Cost I've mentioned that. Yes, Ryan, to answer your question, whether you need to have this money liquid, yes, for this government insurance fees, you will not need it before or in the process of making the application. But once the application is complete, then you would have to pay it before issuance. So they would tell you, Ryan, your application is approved. Please pay the 1 million Kenyan shillings. Okay.
So do they have to stay in a bank account?
No, not really. So if so we make the application for you, Ryan. The moment we get an approval that your application has been successful, then you are told the application is successful, then make the payment. You know, if
your application have to pay the 100,000.
No, the 1 million shillings.
Oh, 1 million. Okay.
1 million, yeah, 1 million. Yes.
What do you do with the 100,000?
So the 100,000
US dollars, by the way. So there's the fee, and then there's the amount that you need to invest.
So Ryan, let me just add something and possibly to address that as well. You had asked the question as to whether $100,000 should be in liquid cash or it should be some money, and you had provided a scenario whereby you had acquired a property yourself, which is valued above $100,000, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. So usually, what they usually look at is not only liquid cash. So if the property itself, after valuation, and for you to provide that evidence, you would have to provide the sales agreement and a letter from the developer indicating that it is true indeed you have fully settled your payments, and the property which you had purchased, which is now an investment that is coming into the country, is way above the $100,000, which is the benchmark set by the government. So it doesn't have to be cash. But in the event that you don't have a property or you have not purchased, that's something else. So usually what I actually advise my clients in most cases is I try to kill two birds with one stone. So what happens in this scenario is quite straightforward. So instead of you coming in and try to first buy, apartments straight on, and then later on try to pursue this other route, I usually advise my clients to start the process of now trying to acquire the property. If you have that money, please leave it in the account for a period of maybe a month. A month is not too much. Then let us work on the immigration, possibly by printing out the bank statement to indicate to the government that as an investor, you have invested, or rather, you have $100,000, which is the required threshold in your account. And that account, remember, should be a Kenyan account. So how do you do that? Very simple. So once you are supposed to start with the work permit plus G, one of the first processes is to incorporate a company. We incorporate for you a Kenyan company, and it's through that Kenyan company that we also end up opening for you a bank statement and then a bank account. After that bank account, then you can simply now channel your money through that bank account, and then that is what exactly the immigration now will use to verify whether your investment is indeed genuine. So they will liaise with the bank that you have provided just to confirm that indeed that the funds are actually in the account which you have provided. And then once the immigration verification process is done, then the next thing now is just to withdraw the money and then proceed to purchase it with your property. So you see, you've already complied with the immigration aspect of it. At the same time, you've also ended up buying your own house.
I want to emphasize for the audience, this is probably exactly where you want to really have a good law firm, because I want to stress that the importance of the order of operations that you just explained is really important. That will streamline things, right? Because if you do things out of order, then it's going to make things more complicated. Because that was a very specific strategy.
Ryan, let me just add one thing, just on the same thing. This is arising from something that you're doing for a client presently. So it's a group of clients made up of Americans and Englishmen. So they're putting up an investment. It's above $100,000. So for the time being, they are applying for a work permit for one individual. Okay. What we have done, I don't know if this has come up because I can't see the comments, but essentially this is to answer the question: can you get more than one permit, an investor's permit, on the same portfolio of investment? Okay. And I know that is also something that people might consider. So what we have done for them is that we have incorporated the company for them. Okay. We've then had the company certified as an investor. Okay. With the Kenya Investment Authority. Once this certification is granted, which application we do for the company, under the same investment portfolio, the company would qualify for up to 3 permits. Okay, with the same investment portfolio. So let's imagine they're investing 150,000. So you can have 3 of the partners obtain work permits. Now, so at the moment you're applying for only one person. The question that they asked us is, so if you want to apply for a permit for another partner in 6 months, do we need to leave the money in the bank? We told them no. For the time being, we'll apply because they have not yet started the business with the money in the bank. This first person will get the work permit. They will obviously use the money to buy furniture because they're setting up a restaurant across the UN in Nairobi. So they will obviously use the money to buy furniture, to employ people and whatnot. So obviously the money will reduce. Operational cost, exactly. The question is, will they still be able to apply for a work permit for another person later? And the answer is yes.
Okay.
And what we would do is that we demonstrate that yes, in the bank we have $50,000, but the company has had investments worth $100,000. So just to buttress what Abdi said, the money need not be in liquid cash. Okay, so if that money is already in an investment, for example, in furniture, in payment of rent, in buying of an apartment, it would still qualify for a permit.